Now, moving on, it is time for our Premier League picks. Night 3 at the OVO Hydro in Glasgow. Night 3 of 17, including the playoffs, as the Premier League season still in its early stages, but a little less early than it was just a week ago. First matchup, it is Nathan Aspinall, who is currently in that last playoff spot, but again, early days. Part of a four-way tie, but on tiebreakers, he's currently in the last spot, and he's going against Michael Van Guren, the many, many times Premier League champion. How do you see this one?
Well, before I get into my prediction, let's just first address the elephant in the room. And Burton, your predictions last week, 0 out of 4, and we were both 1 out of 4 on week 1. And I said we can't do much worse, so I'm not sure how you're going to do worse this week. But on the bright side, I was 3 out of 4 last week, but didn't get any correct scores. So I've only picked up 3 points. So the score between us still pretty close, 6-1 to me, and that could be overturned in these first 2 games, depending on our predictions and if we get them right or not. And first game, Nathan Aspinall, Michael Van Guren, 4th versus 2nd in the table. Neither player had any deep runs in the Pro Tour at the weekend, but the Premier League, the first 2 weeks between them, they've each had a semi-final and a run to the final in opposite weeks. And one of them is going to lose in the quarterfinals for the first time here. There's no draws in the Premier League. Michael Van Guren, he's won the last 5 meetings, some very close games. That the match play quarterfinals last year, that the World Grand Prix final ended up being very close, but both of those games, MVG raced into a big lead. And it's easy to say Nathan Aspinall, he can't afford a slow start here. He needs to stick with Michael, but I think we're going to see MVG win this one. I'm going to go 6-3 to the Green Man.
Yeah, and you didn't have to mention the elephant in the room. There's a reason. There's many reasons I didn't. One of them because I didn't actually know the exact score. I knew how many I got. I didn't know how many you got. But thanks for mentioning that. As far as this week, as Alex will have now made you guys all know, you should ignore everything I'm going to say for the next 5 minutes. Not that you don't ignore everything I say for the entire show anyway, but more than ever, you really should ignore everything I'm about to say. I'm going to go Michael Van Guren. I'm just going to go with the bookie's favorite and all these because I need some points. There's no logic behind my picks this week. There's obviously no logic behind them last week. I went 0 for 4. There was very little logic the week before that. So I'll go Michael Van Guren 6-4 because it's the more likely result. And when you're on 1 point through 8 matches, sometimes you just want to start climbing a little bit clear of that relegation zone or back into the midst of it even. So I'll go 6-4 to the Green Man.
Second quarterfinal in Glasgow, and it's a battle between 2 players. I don't know if people know they shared a house together during lockdown. It's Peter Wright against Dimitri Van den Bergh. How do you see this one going?
Oh, they did? This one doesn't have a logical answer because both of them are playing well. Peter Wright might not have any points yet in the Premier League, but he played well. He also played well at the Masters. He played well on the World Series events. He's looking like he's the world number 2 again. But Dimitri Van den Bergh, he was another player we could have mentioned before the break when we went through other players who impressed us at the weekend, because he did have a pretty good weekend in Barnsley, and there were some matches where he was just unplayable. This is a tough one. Peter Wright, you can say he's going home to Scotland, but he's lived almost his entire life in the south of England, so I don't know how much this is going home for him, but he will have the hometown crowd behind him. I don't think that will bother Dimmy, but I think it might just be enough to get over the line. Granted, I said that last week about Johnny Clayton against Michael Smith, and I was wrong. I'll probably be wrong about it here. I'll go 6-5 to Peter Wright, so bet your life savings on Dimmy.
Yeah, bet your life savings and bet everything else you've got, because I've got Peter Wright winning this one as well. And there is only one win between them so far in this Premier League. Dimitri winning the first game of the season against Johnny Clayton and losing in the first round last week. Peter Wright 0 for 2, 6-3 defeats, and his average is 103 and 97. It is a tough school, the Premier League. And as you mentioned at the weekend, Dimitri fared better than Peter Wright in the Players' Championships, a last 32 and a last 16, and he currently holds the Darryl Pilgrim position, top of the Players' Championship averages for the year. And I see this one being close, and it's an interesting point you make about the Scottish crowd. And usually with the Premier League, you've got Gary Anderson in there, and he will have a lot of the home support for those Premier League nights. But we've not got Gary Anderson this year. Peter Wright is the only Scotsman here. I think he's going to get a lot more support this year because of that. So I think he's going to win this one. I've got it going a little bit more one-sided. I'm going to go 6-4 to Peter Wright.
Third matchup, it's the man who started the World Championships as the world number 1 and ended it as the world number 4, going against the man who started the World Championships as the world number 4 and ended it as the world number 1. Maybe one of them will end today, number 4 in the Premier League, or Thursday, number 4 in the Premier League. Neither are currently there. Maybe one of them will end at number 1. It's Gerwyn Price against Michael Smith. How do you see this one?
This should be a good one, and the only game I saw last week from the Premier League was the tail end of the final, and I thought it would be a better contest than Scott Mitchell against Peter Manley in the seniors. So we left the Circus Tavern early, and this was on in the sports bar. The guy on security looked at a spitting image of Keith Chegwin, if you're interested in that as well. But it was nice to see Gerwyn Price get that homecoming, the warm reception from the Cardiff crowd, which he seemed to embrace, going all the way, winning last week's night in Cardiff. And this week we're in Glasgow, and you expect the crowd not to be as friendly with Gerwyn Price. He skipped the Pro Tours at the weekend. Michael Smith, he had a last 16 and a quarter final, but he was fairly up and down the second day. 93 average to a 104 to a 91 in his quarter final against Brendan Dolan, an 84. But I expect him to bring a good game here, and I think we're going to see the world number 1 come out on top. I'm going to go 6-4 to Michael Smith.
I'll go the other way. Make a difference in here. I think, I'm not sure what I think about Gezi skipping so many Pro Tours recently, because he's now his spot in the Euro Tours going forward are going to be under question. And that's where, he really made his market. Now that he's down to world number 4, that's not where he wants to be. He wants to be world number 1. And obviously the biggest thing in that is the World Championships. But making sure he stays in the top 16 of the Pro Tour Order of Merit so that he gets to the Euro Tours, so that he gets the advantage of being one of the top seeded players at the Players' Championship events, I think is key for him. I don't know how I feel, especially early on in the year, already skipping Pro Tour weekends. I don't know how I feel about that for him. It'll probably mean he's well rested. He hadn't played in a week going into last week, and he came away with the title. He hasn't played in a week this time. And I think with Michael Smith having played the weekend, I'm going to go for that well-rested Gerwyn Price to just get the better of him, 6-5. But again, if I'm Gezi, I'm reconsidering skipping as many Pro Tour weekends as he did last year, and looks like he might be this year. Obviously, he can skip some, but maybe start the year off fresh and make sure that you bring that Pro Tour ranking back up first.
Final quarter-final in Glasgow, and at the start of the night it will be top against bottom. We've got Chris Dobey against Johnny Clayton. How do you see this one going?
Yeah, it's an interesting one because Johnny Clayton is one of the 2 players on 0 points so far, but again, he averaged over 100 in one of those matches. He did not look all that good on night 2 in front of his home crowd against Michael Smith, but he did look good against Imi. Chris Dobey, obviously he won the title on his first night, and he pushed the eventual champion to a deciding leg on the second night. Right now, it looks like Chris Dobey is playing that little bit better, but I think Johnny Clayton feels like he has something to prove, and he knows he has the game to prove it, and I think he's going to start that proving on night 3 in Glasgow. So I'm going the Ferret to win it. I'll go 6-4.
Oh, that was the score I'm going to have. I'm going to mix it up there. I'll be different just so we have someone get some points in this last game. And it is a new situation here for Johnny Clayton and the Premier League. Last year, the new format got to a final in week 1, won the next, and that put him top of the table. And he didn't drop lower than 3rd for the rest of the whole season, ended up finishing 9 points clear at the top. 2 weeks in here, and he is bottom on goal differential from Peter Wright. And it's only 2 weeks in, but he'll want to get off the mark as soon as possible. And if my earlier prediction of Peter Wright to win his game happens, then he will go into this game as the only player without a point to his name. And going off of Darts Oracle as well, these two have not actually played each other since August 2021, which I found quite surprising, but they're going to be playing each other quite often over the next few months. I was going to back Johnny Clayton to win this one 6-4, but as I said, I'm going to mix it up. So I'm going to go with Chris Dobey to continue his good start and to win it 6-4 is going to be my prediction. And when we're recording this, I haven't checked, but I'm assuming we've still got some of you left in the competition for our last man standing, a Premier League player shirt of your choice for the winner. And by the time this show is out, we'll have updated it. So do go and check our website, weeklydartscast.com, see if you're still in. And if you are, retweet our pin tweet, reply hashtag last man standing, the player you're picking to win their quarterfinal on Thursday. And remember, you can't choose the same player twice. If you've had Chris Dobey and Gerwyn Price the last 2 weeks, you've got to go elsewhere for your pick this week. And entries close at 7 o'clock Thursday.